Dear Mexico Grand Prix, I knew that you were going to be amazing, but so intense and giving us one of the best races on the calendar, I did not expect that. And today I will be talking about almost everything that we thought about while watching the Mexico Grand Prix. My name is Tanya Mehta and welcome back to my channel Project Podium. And trust me, I have a lot of things to talk about. First of all, Norris is now the leader of the championship by 1 point. Verstappen struggled almost throughout the race but then made some recovery towards the end of the race. Ferrari on podium. We also had hopes of Hamilton's first Ferrari podium but sadly he finished 8th. Piastri struggled almost throughout the race but thank you to Mercedes who made him help recover some points. And oh my god, the Mercedes mess was so embarrassing and I have a whole segment designed for it. But kudos to Oliver Behrman because he was my favorite part of the entire race. And obviously the controversial turn 1 incident and some questionable choices made by the stewards. We are going to be discussing it all step by step. So first let's get into what happened on the weekend. We had a very interesting qualifying where Lando Norris absolutely dominated the qualifying and actually even the weekend. He had a very interesting cooling system which gave him advantage over almost all the cars as it was extremely hot. After Norris we had both the Ferraris and I knew that Ferrari is going to do well in Mexico but so well, I did not expect that. So we had a Mercedes, Max Verstappen Mercedes, and if that lineup does not give you a heart attack then I don't know what will. I literally pray to all the gods in the world for the Mercedes boys not to crash into Max Verstappen. After that we had Oscar Piastri who had a very sad qualifying knowing that Carlos Sainz actually overqualified Piastri but then Carlos Sainz had to start 12th because of his penalty in Austin and blah blah blah. But what the hell is wrong with Piastri? And I'm going to be talking about that in my video as well, so stay tuned. All the top 10 drivers I guess started in soft except both the Red Bulls who chose to start in the medium tires. Lando had a very good start. Leclerc does not really struggle to get into the slipstream with Lando Norris. Hamilton almost could pass both of them thanks to the slipstream but he finds himself in a tight spot and cannot get past both. And somehow on the left of everyone comes Max Verstappen. I mean, what the hell was he trying to do? He slipped into an impossible position. They arrived in 4 at turn 1. Both Ferraris brush into each other. Max is pushed to the outside and both Leclerc and Max are passed through the lawn. I have no idea how Max did not hit himself to the wall. That was some crazy stuff with the grass. It almost felt like I'm watching Wimbledon F1 because what the hell was that? With the foot down and the steering wheel, I don't know what the hell he did but somehow he did not crash and that was impeccable. Now they come back, Leclerc gives back the position to Lando Norris but does not give it to Lewis Hamilton. And then Lewis Hamilton goes like, hey, he needs to give me the position back as well. And stewards do not penalize Verstappen and Leclerc for gaining any kind of advantage and passing on the grass. I mean, they arrive 4 in 1 turn, so maybe it's kind of fair. However, on lap 6, Max Verstappen changes the race. He attacks Lewis Hamilton. Great duel on the first chicane. I almost went back to 2021 and I was sweating throughout when Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton were wheel to wheel. Max again cuts the grass, so we're back in Wimbledon and slows down before turn 4. Defends his position and Lewis goes wide because he underbraked a bit too much. Max comes back on track, pushes Russell out and Behrman slips inside between both of them. A very clean overtake. Hamilton remains 3rd but exits the escape road and cuts across the grass, not respecting the rule and gets a very heavy 10-second controversial penalty which I will talk about in my later segment. Right now I'm just telling you guys what the hell happened in the race. Now Norris is in the race of his own. He's literally traveling to Brazil and all the cars behind Norris start to undercut. And that's when the Mercedes masterclass comes into place. For 20 minutes, Russell cries on the radio asking for the team orders where Antonelli can let Russell pass because he has more pace. He thinks that he can overtake Behrman. He complains about McLaren being right at the back of him and he just wanted to basically fight for podium and he said that I will give the position back if needed and please let me go, and he wasted like so many laps crying on the radio that Mercedes in the end just said, go man, do what you want. At that time, Antonelli decides to pit with Piastri. Antonelli has the slow pit and Piastri passes him and comes ahead of Antonelli, and then he overtakes Russell in the end too. Now, if they had kept all three in position they were in, Antonelli would have pulled the DRS train to Russell and Piastri would have never passed Russell and Antonelli both. Piastri would have stayed behind the Mercedes probably throughout the race, except the pit. And yeah, that's exactly how both of them got screwed over. A disaster. A complete George Russell disaster. Now coming to the end of the race where Charles Leclerc was really struggling on the medium tyres, and Max in a sensational soft stint is coming very close to Charles Leclerc. He's in DRS, and I am glad that I'm going to watch Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen race wheel to wheel, because honestly they are my two favorite men on the grid when it comes to racing. And then the race ends in a virtual safety car. Norris finishes the race in Brazil, and then Charles, and then Max Verstappen, and then Oliver Behrman, and then Oscar Piastri, who I thought would also overtake Oliver Behrman and make some points. So that was the race, my friends. Just sad scenes. Now coming to all the controversial parts. Norris is at 357 points. Look, McLaren was going to do good in Mexico because they had great advantage at cooling the car. The strong heat and the slippery track gave them the perfect conditions. Great balance, great race pace, but overall this was only done by Lando Norris and not by Oscar Piastri. Lando is going through a magical period right now, and I have noticed that since Mexico, Lando has decided to black out the delta time during qualifying. He doesn't know how much he's improving. He obviously knows himself. He wants to take the pressure out while he's racing, and I think that has helped him a lot as a driver. He feels more confident. He's concentrating only on the driving, and I think that's why he's kind of performing way better than he has in the start of the season. Like the last three races has been really good for Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri is now at 356 points, just 1 point behind Lando Norris. And thanks to the Mercedes disaster for his comeback in points. According to Andrea Stella, car number 81 has no problems. This is probably not just a favorable track for Oscar Piastri. In the next remaining races, he might make a comeback, but will he? Now that he is not the prey but the predator, maybe he might perform better, who knows. Max is now at 321 points, who gained only 5 points in this race. Red Bull literally struggled in Mexico all weekend. He was aggressive throughout the race, and the strategy of Red Bull really worked for Max Verstappen, which helped him come third position. If Max and Red Bull can compete in dry in Brazil, then he can really make a comeback, and the championship fight is honestly not over yet, guys. Trust me. The analysis of Ferrari is very simple. Ferrari had a great track thanks to the smooth track, but what happened with Charles Leclerc was that in the race he went on the grass and very smartly went straight to avoid contact. Gave position to Lando Norris but not to Lewis Hamilton. So in the eyes of the stewards, he was kind of sidelined. Max did not give position to Hamilton and he had to take it at turn 5. Over here, we need to understand Hamilton's state of mind and as well as Charles. Mexico is such a track. In 2016, even Lewis Hamilton locked himself up in the front and went straight on and slowed down rather than giving position. So honestly, everybody has done something like that. It's just the Mexico Grand Prix. Now, in reality, the pace of Ferrari was not that great. But if in qualifying Ferrari was the second best car, then in the race it was the third best car. Red Bull was so good in the race that it almost prevented Charles Leclerc from making a pit stop the second time. So honestly, Charles Leclerc did a very good job. And now coming to Hamilton, who could probably finish on podium without the penalty, but I think the 10 seconds penalty really dropped his confidence and mojo to race towards the end, and I think it just kind of spoiled it for Lewis Hamilton to another level. I mean, Hamilton penalty was a little exaggerated in my opinion. A 10-second penalty? I mean, Max Verstappen was at the apex, he was in front, so yes, it was his position. I have seen multiple videos and heard a lot of analysis, but 10 seconds? In the steward book, it's written 5 to 10 seconds. I think a 5-second penalty would have been fine because that was kind of a racing incident and a lockup as well. He did not do anything wrong as such, in my opinion. But looking at this, do you think that Charles Leclerc should have given the position back to Lewis Hamilton in the first lap? I don't know. I think that is kind of controversial. Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc not getting a penalty is kind of understandable because the track is such, the cars are such, there was a lot of chaos. But in my opinion, I think Charles Leclerc should have given position back to Lewis Hamilton. For me, Oliver Bearman was definitely driver of the day. He did a very good job. I would have loved to see him on podium, but probably next time. He is great talent and I'm waiting to see what he does. I think Kimi Antonelli also defended very well. It was very nice that in the end he did ask for the position back from George Russell. If George Russell did not create all that drama, then probably it would have been a more difficult race for Oscar Piastri. And now coming to the end, which I really want to address in this video, is the booing. Guys, first of all, Lando Norris got booed throughout the Mexican Grand Prix. People were not happy that he finished the race, and apparently they want him to give the 3 points back to Oscar Piastri from the previous races. I think it was Monza or something. And look, in Mexico, people are always booed. Lewis Hamilton was booed and Checo had to ask them not to boo. Max Verstappen has been booed, Vettel has been booed, and now Lando Norris is being booed. I think it's a very Mexican thing that whenever a driver is winning a race or like is dominating or has had some drama throughout the season, they kind of boo him, which is wrong. I mean, you need to respect drivers, but then for me, it is also like, you know, when you get booed, you come in this villain era aura, and I think that is pretty sexy. So Lando Norris just needs to relax. He is in the most magical moment right now. He's in great form, and if he does not care about all these things and probably even switches his social media for the next 2-3 months, then I won't be surprised if he wins World Championship. However, I'm still rooting for Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. Let me know what you thought about the Mexican Grand Prix in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching my video. Peace.